We're back. We're going to give you some practical tips today about starting a farm from scratch. And these are some of the tips that we're keeping in mind as we do our rebuild, because our farm was hit by a tornado. Everything but our home was destroyed. So starting from scratch, we have some really great advice for all of you, things that we're keeping in mind as we rebuild our infrastructure here on the farm. The first thing that I in particular have kept in mind is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. And that is something when you are completely buried and trying to build something back up from scratch, it's like everything's below the line. So that really helped me as a business owner kind of understand and assess what is a priority. We were getting lots of custom requests for new things that we've never done before, and one-off requests from people who were trying to help, but they were really below the line. And there were even some farm tasks that were like, you know what, I'm not going to get to that. It's below the line. It helps you really set your priorities, right? Yep. I'm kind of dipping into one of your points. Maybe we should go ahead and flip into your next point.
Yes, so creating more efficiency on the farm.
Yeah.
Definitely with the experience that we have in rebuilding a farm, we've been able to make our efficiencies more efficient, if that makes sense. And one of my biggest things for completing tasks on the farm, of course, make yourself a list, but compartmentalize your tasks. Rather than doing A, B, C, and D, we will do, in our repetitive tasks, we'll do all of A, then all of B, and so forth. That has really sped up a lot of our processes here for what we do by compartmentalizing each task individually.
I was laughing as Adam's like telling this point, because I am notorious for like running around like a chicken with my head cut off, doing a little of this, doing a little bit of that. And he has done a really good job focusing us and making sure that we do all of one thing. And even I am like challenging myself, like, no, don't move on to the next thing. Do the first thing first, get completely through it, and then move on. That's my MO. Like, I'm the one who like kind of flitters around like a butterfly, like doing all the things. And that's not the way to do it. You have to do one task, focus on one task, and get it completely done. So good job on that. For sure.
And the next thing I want to talk about is, it's not necessarily advice, and it's typically a difficult thing to talk about, but it's one of the top things when you're starting a farm is money. The enormous sums of money that it takes to start up a farm operation. When we were new farmers, we worked jobs for, Jen worked for 10 years at a job before she finally came on the farm full time, and I went 5 years in a full-time job. As we have worked on this rebuild, it has definitely reminded us of how absolutely expensive this endeavor is.
Yes, it's expensive to do a farm, and something that we do mention is if you're just starting out on a farm, you can bootstrap it. You can make it work with very little. You don't have to have everything. We're just restarting and building everything that we had before, so that is very expensive.
Yeah.
But if you start modest, buy one incremental investment at a time, that's the way to do it, and break it down so that you can do it a little bit more sustainably. For us, we were in the position where we had to buy everything up front right now, and that's where I really think you take the huge impact of having to really experience how expensive running a farm is, right?
Jen said it so much better than I could say it. I was starting to fumble there.
I'm kind of going into the next topic that we really wanted to talk about is we bootstrapped it all these years before this. Like, yeah, we were running with not the fanciest stuff, but we were making it work. But now that we're getting to rebuild from scratch and we got a little assistance from our community, it's like we see that there were some things that we were operating and working with that were actually slowing us down and making us less efficient. I'll let you kind of talk about it. This is your next takeaway.
Before we do get into that though, I just want to make mention with the financial part. This was a big realization for us during this rebuild again, but we absolutely could not be up and running like we are without the love, help, and support of our PepperHarrow community, our flower farming community. You guys have lifted us up and helped us get to run run a normal business again.
I can't fathom where we would have been without the support that we received, and thank you so much. We would not have been able to be where we are, and you know, people keep commenting about actually how resilient we are, but it's only because we had that safety net from so many people out there financially with flower plugs and things of that nature. It just helped give us a leg up, and it gave us like a security blanket to feel like, hey, we have a safety net here. We're being caught a little bit, and it helped us stay a little bit resilient that way, right?
So here's the secret about our resilience. You guys have made us resilient.
Yeah, well, it does come from deep within, but definitely that was a huge contributor.
That brings us into our next thing, is investments on the farm. When we first moved here, like we mentioned before, everything's expensive, so I tried to do everything cheap, and I had the opportunity to invest in the correct thing, but for way too long went the cheap route, and we have paid the price for it.
You got to give the tiller example. We've been operating with a tiller for what, 10 years?
10 years. I just discovered last week via another YouTube video, my tiller was crappy.
I mean, would you have known that up front though? You know?
No. When we're breaking new ground for new beds, this tiller that I had would just kind of chop the sod up into big clumps, and I would have to till it over and over. Very inefficient, very time consuming, used a lot of fuel. So that's an example of a poor quality tool actually costs you more in the long run. But yeah, I discovered watching YouTube videos trying to figure out a solution to breaking the sod up better, and that's when I discovered that I had a terrible tiller, and if I had the decent and correct equipment, I'd be tearing up fresh sod in one pass.
But sometimes you're a product of, you only know what you know, or only have access to what you have access to. Just keep educating yourselves and see what works for you as a business, what works for you as a farm. And that was one thing we knew, hey, something's not quite right here. We have to keep retilling this soil because it's not breaking everything up. And luckily, Adam's a total, what is that? You have an Enneagram where you're like a big researcher dude.
Yeah, I'm bored all the time, so I'd like to learn.
He researches everything.
I'm a learner, a lifelong learner.
Yes, you are.
I love learning.
Stay curious. It's good.
But I do want to mention that when you're making these investments, most agricultural items are 0% interest. Take advantage of that. You know, that's how we got our tractor and have since paid it off, which is awesome. But we got that 0% interest. We got our implements and things 0% interest. I think your greenhouses are even 0% interest, so take advantage of it.
Yes. You can do it debt-free too, though, like we were talking about bootstrapping. Only afford what you can afford and make incremental investments annually if you can afford it. So always set money aside and use it to buy those big, expensive, fancy things for your infrastructure to build it up. Generally, after year 5, and in our case, it was year 6, we broke even and started making profit on our business. After the big infrastructure investments, I think now we're a scratch now in year 11 just because the tornado destroyed everything. But year 6 is really what you should be looking at for profitability, from a profitability standpoint, after you make those investments back into your business. So you can do it Adam's way, taking out a 0% loan, or you can do it my way, kind of bootstrapping your way through. Know that there's no right or wrong way to do it. You can do what works for you. So feel yourself out. Don't have imposter syndrome. You don't have to have all the fancy stuff to be able to succeed as a business. I remember back in the day when we thought we had to have a greenhouse and that made us legit. You don't have to have a greenhouse. You only need a greenhouse if you want to do that season extension, right? Or do some specialty growing. If you don't have a greenhouse, don't worry about it. You can still be a successful flower farmer. The next one I have is a couple good ones. Always stick to easy, reliable plants. That's not a new one, but it just made me kind of focus more, like stick in the lane and do something as easy as possible. And then the other thing was, I think I'm gonna set aside a little extra money each and every year to buy a few more plugs than I've ever purchased before. I had a bunch of plugs donated to us, and getting those planted up, so much easier, so much less mental stress and anguish. So we're making it a part of our business plan to incorporate some of that into our business on an annual basis now. So a few more plugs and maybe we start a few less seeds. I'm okay with that. That was something fun to discover and new as part of our business.
Yeah. Overall, we've just noticed that we have been more intentional here on the farm, and we've always considered ourselves like taking every step with intention. This experience with the tornado has multiplied it by 10. So every move that we have made on this rebuild has been very intentional. We putting buildings in the same spot, but making different changes with, like, say the size of our greenhouse or just different things like that. All the moves we have been making have been way more intentional than we've ever been.
I also noticed that every single year, I panic and I always think I'm behind. And I know every flower farmer is in the exact same boat. One thing that I have realized, being able to step back a little bit and focus on what's important, is that every single year, it takes me an entire month to plant all of our fields. Even though we started from scratch this year compared to the previous years, it still has taken us a month to do that. And so I want you all to know that, like, this is like a good realization for us and us to share with you. Like, if you feel like you're behind, it's not behind, it's normal. Give yourself a month during your planting season to get everything in the ground and get everything done that you need to have done. So know if you're feeling behind, are you really? Like, it can be kind of a mental mind trick and a trap. So don't let yourself feel trapped. Know that it will take time to get everything in. And I'm just giving myself a little grace. And now that I've kind of realized it, I looked at last year actually and compared it. I'm like, hey, my last plants were put into the ground on June 1st last year to get the annual field completed. I'm in the same boat this year. That's exactly what's going on. The last of our annuals are going into the ground.
Yeah, so this is our craziest time, and we're still in the beginning stages of this season. So just one step at a time.
That's right. One foot in front of the other, the biggest takeaway.
Just complete one step and take the next one, then take the next one.
Yeah.
And you'll get through it.
And things have not gone right for us. With everything that we're doing, a lot of the stuff on the farm looks great, but we're discovering that there are some big time issues going on with some of our lavender plants. They aren't doing well. And you know what? We are just trying to figure out what to do. We're feeling okay about it. We're keeping our head above water and like keeping a really good mindset. Not everything is going to work. Some things are going to fail. And there is always, every single year, some level of failure that's going to go down on your farm or with your business. Even though it's painful, you have to accept that and learn from it and just figure out how to get better.
Surprisingly, we discovered that the tornado actually did damage some plant material. We're just only really now discovering it as some of these perennials are supposed to be coming back to life. We weren't anticipating it. We thought everything was fine, but we're discovering a little bit of that damage. But we're just, like we said, one step at a time. Just tackle each problem just one at a time.
Yep. We hope sharing some of our journey and some of our perspectives from rebuilding our farm from scratch will help some of you. You know, it's not rocket science, they're practical, but it applies to everyone. And even if there was a little tiny nugget that you were able to take away from today's conversation, that is awesome. Take it away, and if you guys have any questions, leave them below. We know we're not the only ones who are like starting a farm from scratch or starting from the beginning. We're curious to know, what are your biggest struggles? What are you working on? What do you need help with? We're here to help. We want to do videos on those things and help you guys out as much as we possibly can.
But we saved the best for last. Our new event barn is completed on the outside. Let's go take a look. We can't wait to show you what this looks like. It is absolutely beautiful. A huge upgrade from what we had before. So let's go check it out.
Okay.
And here it is. This is rough sawn board and batting. This is actually pretty fresh off the tree, so it does still need a little bit of drying time, but it is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, everyone keeps asking us, are we gonna leave it natural like this?
No, we're gonna paint it white.
Y'all know me. Yeah. Y'all know me. Paint it all white. Paint it all white. So this will actually be white. We have some black fixtures, light fixtures, gooseneck fixtures that are going to go over the windows and the doors. And we're actually getting ready for a wedding this weekend. So I'm so happy this is on here instead of just the sheet that was, you know, what is it called? Building wrap?
I think it is building wrap. Wow, you got that right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll do like a builder.
Anyway, it looks way better for having the wedding with this on rather than this building, the building wrap that was there before. So we're so happy this is here.
So happy.
It looks really beautiful.
So we love the front that we actually have a gabled entrance with like real French doors. If you've seen any other videos of our old building, it was just a metal building with sliding barn doors.
It has a formal entrance on it. That's what you're trying to say. Before, it was just a converted horse barn. So now it is actually an event place, and there's a door, a real entrance on the front.
Real windows.
Real windows. Oh my gosh. It is really nice. So yes, this is one upgrade we got, and man, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Today we covered some of our practical advice for starting a farm from scratch. We showed you an update of our little event barn and how beautiful it looks on the outside, and then some of the things that we have flowering around the farm. Little by little, things keep improving every single day, and there's more and more flowers in bloom, which makes us happy.
Well, we keep getting our videos closer and closer to 1,000 likes, so keep hitting that like button, y'all. If y'all have any questions about your new flower farming journey or just building a farm in general, leave them in the comments below. We're always happy to help whenever we can. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell while you're at it. And we'll see you next time.
As always, thanks for joining, and happy growing.